Guy that loves to talk some football. We got Russ Grimm on the line, former Redskin, former one of the original Hogs, and we crossed paths a few times when I was with the Bears. And how you doing, Coach?
I'm doing fine. Just back in the office trying to get some work done.
Well, let me tell you something. You're down there in Arizona, I'm sure. How's the weather down there? I hate to ask you.
I think we're going to get up to the mid-70s today, so it's a little bit chilly outside.
Not a bad day. You got a chance to kind of catch 18 at the end of the day?
No, I gave up golf a long time ago.
Did you?
So, yeah, I used to play a good bit when I was playing, but once I got into coaching, the hours kind of hurt the game a little bit. So, but I may jump on a motorcycle and go for a ride this evening.
Hey, not a bad deal.
Congratulations on the Hall of Fame, Coach. This is David Spada.
Hey, Dave, thank you very much. It was exciting.
Wow, what an honor. I mean, to be in a class in a national, the NFL Hall of Fame. And my first game I played as a rookie back in 1977 was the Hall of Fame game out in Canton, and I haven't been back since. I'm sure it's changed.
Oh, I have no idea. I've never been there. So.
No kidding.
I've never been there.
Wow, that's an elite group, and it's something that you get to go back every year. And of course, we've been fortunate. The Bears have, how many Hall of Fame Bears? We got 26, I believe.
Got a ton back from the 80s. You got Hampton, you got Singletary, Walter Payton.
Yeah, of course, Coach Ditka, and they've been trying to lobby in Richard Dent. But I then of course we have Jay Hilgenberg that it gets up on the voting ballot every once in a while. So. Congratulations, Coach. It's a hell of an honor, man.
It's a great honor. I'm excited about it. I don't think it's really hit me yet. And one of these days when I'm sitting down, it'll sink in.
When do you get to start putting HOF after your name when you sign the autograph?
Right? Well, they told me I'm allowed to put it right now, but I can't put HOFER. So I just have to put HOF, and they told me right now I'm only allowed to put HOF10. I'm not officially inducted yet.
Hey, have you decided who's going to introduce you? Joe Bugle,
who was my coach for a lot of years there, and actually, he was there when I first got there, and he was a big impact on putting that offensive line together. And I tell people all the time, I mean, offensive line's a position where there's no stats. It's hard to get in the Hall of Fame, and it's hard to even get recognized without some guys beside you that are good football players. So I'm going to make sure that when I get to Canton, I'm going to mention that bunch.
Oh, fantastic. And, I'm up on your Wikipedia. It's always great because, that's how I can read up on all our guests that come on. We have some great guests, man.
We had,
but you've got a picture here when you were with the Steelers, and, of course, you followed the coach. I have a hard time pronouncing his name. Wissenheim. And, you come from a great organization like the Steelers, and I played for a great coach, part of the Steeler group back in the 70s, and that was Raleigh Dodge.
Right.
And, of course, he unfortunately passed away years ago, but I had the privilege of, when I left the Bears after the 83 season in 84-85, finished my 8th and 9th year down in Birmingham, Alabama. God, we had a lot of fun, and Raleigh Dodge made us so much fun.
Actually, one of the coaches for the Steelers, Dan Radakovich.
Yeah.
I want to say my junior year in college, where they changed the rule where you can use the hands a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Moore was my college coach, and going into my senior year, and he had been the running back coach, and he came in and he said, "Look," he says, "we got spring ball coming up." He says, "I'm going to learn the plays." He says, I'm bringing some guys over that are going to work on you on the technique. And in through the door walked Dan Radakovich, Mike Webster, and John Kolb. So 2 nights a week, Webby actually would drive his little red pickup truck with the dummies and work with myself and Jimbo Covert.
There you go.
Was there, and Emo Boers, and he would work with us for about an hour and a half on Tuesday and Thursday nights in the spring. So, obviously there's many thanks go out to that crew.
Look at that pit line you had back in the day. You had Mark May on it, yourself, Jimbo Covert. You guys were loaded. Then you go to the Redskins, and you have Joe Jacoby, yourself, and those Hogs. It was absolutely incredible. Bostic.
It was. It was a good bunch. And, over the year, Mark Shareth, Raleigh McKenzie, Jim Lachey. You know, they came a couple years after that initial group, but it was good. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. You know, I was lucky. I was drafted by an organization that, you know, was making a change into the guard. They'd hired a new coach in Joe Gibbs. The Over the Hill gang was supposedly, they said, on their way out, but they were going to go with youth. We ended up starting, May, Jacoby, and myself were all rookies. Bostic had been, you know, with Philadelphia for a couple games a year before as a rookie, just as a long snapper. So 4 to 5 of us were basically rookies. And, you know, actually we started out 0-5. And, you know, things weren't a real picnic. Bugle was, you know, throwing film canisters around, and you know, there was a lot of screaming and yelling. And Jacoby and I lived together. We were both single. And, I mean, we used to go home and crack open a cold one and then sit there and look at each other and going, well, we thought this was going to be a lot more fun than what it is. But we ended that year 8-8, and, you know, the next year we started the first a couple Super Bowl runs.
Then you knocked the Bears out of the playoffs in 87 and 88.
That wasn't me. That was Darryl when he jumped over the guy on the punt return.
That's right, Darryl Green.
Yeah.
You know, you get an opportunity to play in 4 Super Bowls. Of course, you won 3 of them. Man, what do you do with those 3 rings? Do you put them like in a safety deposit box somewhere?
No, actually,
I
have the last 2. The 87 one's ugly. I got to be honest with you. I've never put that ring on. It hurts your finger when you put it on. It's flat across the top. But I actually keep my last one playing with the Redskins, and I keep my one that I got when I was coaching with the Steelers.
With the Steelers.
So, those are the 2 that I wear the most.
Fantastic. I still wish you were here in Chicago as a head coach. What happened back then when they hired Lovie instead of you?
Well, it was a situation where I don't know if I was quite ready for it yet. I mean, I really hadn't planned on being a head coach as far as having things ready, as far as, you know, offensive and defensive staffs were concerned. The interview process, to be honest, it caught me a little bit off guard, and they were at a point in the process where, you know, Jerry wanted to make a decision in a hurry, and, you know, he made the decision to go with Lovie, and, you know, obviously it was good there. He's done a great job.
Well, I could say a couple things. I think I'll be politically correct, but you're in a better spot, Coach. With Arizona.
I don't know now. The 13 retired, so we're going to we got some work to do. But that's what makes football fun. You tell people all the time, your job as a coach is to put the player in the best position possible. So
help them to win.
I've never been one of those ones where, no, you got to do it this way. I tell my guys, look, the bottom line, I don't care if you line up backwards. If you get the job done, that's a plus.
That's all that matters.
What would you do as offensive coordinator of the Bears?
What would I do?
Yes.
I'm going to run the football. And that's coming from me being out here where we're throwing it about 70% of the time. But you know, that's the stable we had, and that's what Kurt wanted to do with it. In Pittsburgh, we ran it 60-some% of the time.
That's right.
It's a matter. I mean, you got to look at the personnel you have. You got to do what's best for your football.
And you got a couple of good backs there in Arizona. There with Beanie Wells and Hightower. Yeah, you betcha. But you know what? You got let's see, Mr. Leinart, number 7. Right?
Yep.
Or was he worse?
Matt's gotten a lot better over.
What number does he wear?
I haven't seen him on the field enough.
7, that's what I thought.
He's number 7.
Number 7, that's what I thought. And, you know, a lefty. And now you're coaching. Now I see you're assistant head coach, right?
Yeah, that's just one of those. I've had it, you know, since I've been out here. They tagged on a run game coordinator, everything else, and, you know, pretty soon it'll be janitor and
pickup boy,
it'll
pizza
be
delivery
chef
boy,
and everything else. I don't care what it is, as long as I don't care who calls the plays, who draws them up, who teaches them, as long as we get the job done.
As long as you get the job done.
Dave compared Jay Cutler to your former college teammate Dan Marino. Do you see any comparisons there?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, it's hard. You know, I've never gotten into that thing of comparing people. I think, you know, when the records are all done and when their careers are all over, it's hard to compare a guy, you know, past to present. So I've always said, you know, they may have the same throwing motion, but, you know, obviously they're 2 different types of people, and we'll see what happens. But he's a talented quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Hey, does my buddy out there, I know he was coaching with the Cardinals back. He was my first backfield coach for the Bears, Hank Kuhlman. Does that name ring a bell at all?
Yeah, I know Hank. I don't know where Hank is right now.
He's living in Arizona, close by there
really?
somewhere. Yeah,
he's probably golfing because that's what everybody does out here year-round.
Every day, man. I haven't spoke to him for about a year and a half, but I know he was down there in somewhere around the Phoenix area. So I'd like to hook up with him because he was the one directly responsible that when I did get released with the Bears, he called me right up and said, "Hey, you're coming to Birmingham." And you know what? It's like anything else. It's a nice feeling when at least you know somebody on the coaching staff.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's nice to know that not only you're trying to make the team as a player, but you at least you feel you have somebody that's in your corner upstairs.
Yeah, no question about it.
You worked and played for some great coaches. You mentioned Joe Gibbs. You were with Joe Bugle, and then you were with the Steelers with Bill Cowher. I'll tell you what, I got a lot of respect for Bill Cowher because he got the most out of his players, and the players are constantly rotating in Pittsburgh here. I mean, I can't believe he's not coaching nowadays.
Don't be surprised if he doesn't come back in next year. He's I've talked to Coach a couple times, and I know he's getting a little bit antsy, but it's going to be a situation where he's going to feel comfortable. He's a great coach, but he's a player's coach. I mean, he's demanding, yet he's respectful. He'll knows when to back off. I mean, Bill played the game. He knows when to press the thumb down. And it's going to be it's one of those things. Both the Redskins, the Steelers, and we're trying out here at Arizona to make sure it's built through the draft. If you have to splurge and go out and get a bunch of free agents, then it screws up the chemistry of the team. So if you can just keep it rolling and make sure you don't make any mistakes in the draft, and when some guys salary contracts come up and the salary is not feasible for the benefit of the whole team, then you got to be able to let them go and plug somebody else back in there.
So if you have no first or second round pick, you're screwed.
Basically, I mean, I wouldn't say screwed, but you better make sure your 3, 4, and 5 are good ones.
Yeah, I see your coach. You got one of your sons, Chad, playing at Virginia Tech.
Actually, Chad's the oldest one.
Oh, and Cody.
Chad's here as the offensive assistant. Last year was his first year, so he does all the breakdown and tapes and everything. Cody, my second son, he's actually out here now. He's been training for the combine coming up next week. It starts, so he's been out here for a month or so. Had a pretty good career at Tech, and now he's going to see if he can get a chance to play in the NFL.
Another lineman?
Oh, no, they were both linebackers.
Okay.
They're in a 210 to 220 range. No.
Okay. Gotcha.
In fact, I went to Pitt as a linebacker, and after 2 years, they decided that they wanted to move me over to offensive line, and I didn't have much choice. And I know you were thinking about having Jackie on, but he was the one that actually moved me. He called me up in the office. I was 238 pounds after my sophomore year, and he said, "Russ," he said, "we had some guys graduate from the offensive line, a bunch of seniors. We need some help over there. We think you got the frame and the athletic ability. We want to move you over to center." I said, "Coach," I said, "I haven't put my hand in the dirt ever." I said, "Ever." I said, "I was a quarterback linebacker in high school." I said, "I think I'm just going to stay with the offensive line." And I'll never forget it to this day. He raised his eyes and looked at me, and he says, "Son," he says, "I wasn't asking you."
He was a tough guy from what I heard.
Oh, he said, "We are moving you to the offensive line."
Yeah.
Now, with that story, a day later, I called West Virginia. Joe Pendry. I think Joe actually coached a little bit for the Bears.
Sure, absolutely.
Joe Pendry had recruited me to West Virginia. I called Coach Pendry. I says, "Coach," I said, "they want to switch me to offensive line." I said, "I want to stay at linebacker." I said, "Can I transfer?" He says, "Hang on." He says, "I got to go look at some paperwork. You may have to sit out a year." He says, "I'll get back to you." 3 days later, I'm up there working out. 2 or 3 days later, up at Pitt Stadium, and I'm working out, and Joe Pendry walks into the Pitt locker room. And I look at him, I said, "Coach, what are you doing here?" He said, "Actually, they just hired me to coach the offensive line." He said, and you're staying. So, I mean, who knows how it would have turned out had I gone to West Virginia or whatever.
Wow, that is a great story, man.
And, I mean, Joe was hired as the offensive line coach. Joe coached me my junior year, and Joe Moore coached me my senior year, and then it was on to Washington.
How many NFL players are on that Pitt team? I'm thinking of Marino, you, Mark May, Colvert, Hugh Green.
We had my senior year was I know either the top or one of the top 3 collegiate classes that came out. Now, they had 12 rounds back then.
Right.
But we had Randy McMillan, the fullback who used to be with the Colts, Hugh Green, and Mark May went all in the first round. Ricky Jackson, who played the same year as I did in Pittsburgh, Ricky went in the second round. Myself and Bill Neal and Jerry Boyarsky and Meissner and Benji Pryor was there. Tricano actually got drafted he was the backup to Marino. He got drafted as a safety by Cleveland. But overall, Carlton Williamson was another guy that played strong safety for the 49ers. Carlton was there. We ended up with like 17 guys drafted off of that class.
Was it the Ricky Jackson's going to Hall of Fame this year with you?
That's Ricky Jackson, the same one. We played all 4 years together at college. So every time
that's cool,
Jackie
man.
would always match us up in the one-on-ones, or how you what they call it, the Oklahoma drill. So it was always Covert and myself against Hugh Green and Ricky Jackson, so that always stirred up the good matches.
Good deal. Hey, Coach, we're up against the clock. I'm getting a high sign from my producer, but hey, I could sit here and talk 2 hours with you, man. But you know what? I don't think we can't allow it. But anyway, Hey, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you again, Coach.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Really appreciate it. Good luck with the Arizona Cardinals next year.
I appreciate it. Give me a holler anytime.
All right, buddy. Thanks.